Ladies and gentlemen, all right, somebody's got a good whistle. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round. Good evening. You're supposed to say good evening. Okay, now we're getting a little bit better at the idea of what goes on here. We want to thank you for joining us for this special occasion. We are honoring today the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. I'm Jane Campbell. I have the honor to be the president and CEO of the United States Capitol Historical Society. And as we start, I would like everyone to stand and look, and we will be joined by the United States Capitol Police Ceremonial Unit as they present the nation's colors. And remain standing. Everybody turn off your phone because you're going to remain standing and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Now, several people have asked me, does the Historical Society do this for every committee? The answer is no. We do this for one committee a year. And we choose a committee because the committee has operated in a bipartisan manner, has a significant accomplishment for the year, and the chair and ranking member are willing to come together collaboratively to create a celebration. Once that happens, now gentlemen, you need to behave because we are trying to say that you all do behave, but this is also a moment of celebration and an opportunity to tell some stories and bring some folks back. The leadership has given us the opportunity, if you would like to sit in the chair, you are allowed to sit in the chairs. You cannot pass any legislation, but you are allowed to sit in the chairs if you decide you're a little tired. Today, we want to extend a special thank you to Chairman DeFazio and Ranking Member Graves for co-hosting this reception and this celebration. We are also grateful to the sponsors, United Airlines, UPS, and the Volkswagen Group of America, who have contributed to make this celebration a success. We are grateful to the Capitol Police Ceremonial Unit that joined us, and to all of the members of the Capitol Committee that support the United States Capitol Historical Society. As we move through the evening, we will have an opportunity to hear from distinguished members who lead this committee, members who once led this committee, and we invite you to join in the celebration. And at the end, we will have an imaginary toast, and then y'all can go get an actual drink, and you can have a, real toast. How's that for a plan? So to start the festivities off, we start with the chairman. In December of 2019, Peter DeFazio was reelected by his colleagues to be the chair of the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure for the 117th Congress. The Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, fondly known as T&I, is the largest committee in Congress by membership, holds broad pipelines and seaports, the Coast Guard, Amtrak, the EPA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the General Services Administration, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Economic Development, and other agencies. Chairman DeFazio, who represents Oregon's 4th Congressional District, has been an active member of the committee since he was first elected in 1986. During his time, he has served as chair or ranking member on 4 of the 6 subcommittees. He has a well-deserved reputation as a leader on transportation issues, as a bipartisan collaborator who gets things done, and he has been successful. A lot of people have talked about making it Infrastructure Week. He made it Infrastructure Session. And so it is my privilege to present to you Chairman DeFazio.
Thank you. You know we weren't drinking yet. I'm taking the chairman's privilege.
Absolutely.
I didn't know we weren't supposed to be drinking it. I thought this was a celebration of the Congressional Craft Brewers Caucus, because we are the largest and most bipartisan thing left on Capitol Hill with over 230 members. But T&I is a great second choice. Thank you very much, Madam President. I was a county commissioner, and in those days when you came here, it was, you had a different process to get on committees. Now it's pretty much on our side, the speaker kind of weighs in on, and I think the same thing on your side, Sam. But back then, you had to go meet all the committee chairs, and you had to line up the votes. I got to go visit with Jamie Whitten, who was elected well before I was born, and you couldn't really understand a word he said. You just would keep saying yes sir, no sir, and and everything would be fine. And and the freshmen got together, and they were like, "Oh, what committee did you get?" I said, "Well, I got Public Works and Interior." They're like, "Oh my God, that's too bad. What do you want, appropriation, ways and means?" I said, "No, I wanted Interior and I wanted Public Works." And they said, "Why in the world?" I said, "Well, more than half my state's owned by the federal government, so I want to have some influence over federal policy." And I said, and I was a county commissioner. I came from a state the size of the state of Connecticut. And I said, I know how important infrastructure is on a daily basis for commerce, individuals, safety, everything. And I said, besides that, this was the end of the Reagan era, I said, we have a trust fund, so we can still get stuff done. And, of course, the trust fund is now exhausted, but we are otherwise supplementing. But so it's been, and she already mentioned some of my history. I think I've served on every subcommittee. I've been ranking on 4 or chair on 4, and I've had the tremendous honor of serving here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't honor particularly Jim Oberstar, who was a fabulous mentor to me and a great chair of the committee. And I still miss him. And the others on the wall, we're all friends. John Micah couldn't be here tonight. Bob Rowe, Don, just recently deceased, bigger than life there still, and Bud, and of course Norm, who we just named the DOT after Norm, and former Secretary Coleman, and I talked to Norm just after we passed the bill, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to coming to the ceremony." Unfortunately, didn't live long enough to come to the ceremony, but And maybe the Capitol Historical Society can settle this, because it seems to me we're always like, what's the oldest committee in Congress? Now, Ways and Means says they're the oldest committee. But Jim would always say, no, 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 the Committee on Lighthouses was formed before the Ways and Means Committee. And do you know?
You know, we'll have to take that under advisement.
All right, we're either the first or second oldest committee. And we'll still keep plugging away at that in the future. You know, we're still working. Bill Schuster started a great tradition after years of the Water Resources Development Act kind of withering. Bill said, we're going to pass one every 2 years as soon as he took over his chair. And he did. For 6 years, we passed a Water Resource Development Act, and we've kept up that tradition, and we are hard at work trying to keep up the tradition now. We have a agreement with the Senate. Of course, it doesn't mean that they can take it up as a bill, but we can put it in something else because they can't pass individual legislation. But that will be the biggest ever Water Resources Development Act, and it was a fully bipartisan bill, bipartisan vote, came out of the committee. Very proud of that. Last Congress, we completed the most intense investigation in the history of this committee. Took about 18 months into what happened with Boeing and the MAX and the FAA. And at the beginning, there was quite some controversy. You know, Boeing is like, you know, and about whether or not and where the fault lay. But after the Investigation Oversight Committee put out the most comprehensive report we've ever put out, the Senate had already introduced a bill that would have done virtually nothing to change the process, and suddenly that bill disappeared because they read our report and they said, oh my God, we really do need major changes here. We had a captive regulator and we had a company rushing a plane out the door and you know, watching the stock ticker instead of watching you know, out for the safety of the public. And you know, we passed the most comprehensive reform of aircraft certification ever. Again, a fully bipartisan effort, and then the Senate had to follow suit on that one, and we got that done. And as was already mentioned by the President, is that we passed the largest you know, surface transportation infrastructure bill in history. And it's long overdue in terms of the state of infrastructure in the United States. I started way back under Obama when I chaired the subcommittee, and Jim was chair of the committee. I passed a bill out of subcommittee that would have been then the largest bill. It was going to be huge, $380 billion, and like people, oh, wow. And unfortunately, Barack Obama was concerned that we were going to raise the gas tax to pay for it. And he sent a very chagrined Ray LaHood down here to meet with me and Jim and say, I'm really sorry. I mean, he supported an increase in the user fee too. We can't support the bill. So Obama killed the bill. Then along comes Donald Trump, the builder, and we take over the House because they hadn't done anything on this, and in the first 2 years, and we had a meeting at the White House, and it's a great story, so I'll tell it, and then I'll be quiet because we don't want to go on too long. But we go to the White House, and when we got the president focused, it was like, you know, I mean, after a few diversions, we agreed on what a definition of infrastructure was. It was roads, bridges, highways, transit, rail, water, wastewater, and broadband. And big. And Mick Mulvaney, by the way, was out of town. And so then, you know, we're about getting ready to leave, and the president looks at Nancy and says, well, Nancy, what do you think? What do you think? And she's like, what do you mean, Mr. President? He says, well, how much? How much? And Nancy says, well, Mr. President, we were thinking of 1.2 trillion. And he goes, no. We're thinking, oh my God, we're dead. He goes, no. 1.6. No. Two sounds better. 2 trillion. And we're like, okay, we just bargained with the greatest bargainer in the world, and we'll take it. And we said we'd come back 2 weeks later. Unfortunately, Mulvaney was back in town, and by then they were like, no way that bill's going to happen. We finally delivered this time. This committee passed the bill twice, and we went through a real legislative process. We spent 20 hours in the first mixed hearing with all the Democrats except for me not here. Well, Steve Lynch flew down from Boston on his anniversary to spell me for 2 hours from the chair because everybody else was virtual. And I'm thankful to him. We passed it out. We didn't agree on a lot of the provisions, but we went through a real legislative process. We did that twice. And we sent, this time, yet another very large bill to the Senate with a lot of interesting and new ways of dealing with transportation infrastructure and climate change. And they couldn't even get it out of one of the 3 committees of jurisdiction. So the president had to then do the usual thing you do with the Senate, is get a group of people together, write a bill behind closed doors, and then the Senate says, take it or leave it. We did get the largest investment ever. And it is going to be a tremendous benefit to this nation and the movement of people and goods and efficiency. I'm proud of that. But this has been an incredible committee to serve on, and every chair I've had, Republican or Democrat, we've always been able to not agree on everything, but work a lot of stuff out to the benefit of the American people. I'm grateful for that, and Sam has been a great partner, and I want to congratulate him on what I said yesterday. I can't congratulate you yet, on becoming the next chair of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. So I guess maybe you're going to introduce him and not me, so I'll sit down.
You certainly done a good job. What a distinguished story. Now, Congressman Sam Graves has to follow that act. Congressman Graves is a lifelong resident of Missouri's 6th Congressional District, a small businessman and a 6th-generation family farmer. He has spent his life working to make Missouri a better place to live, work, and raise a family. And here in Congress, he serves as the ranking member on the House T&I Committee. Rumor is, come January, he'll become the chair. Let me tell you what his official biography says. This is kind of interesting. He says he pays special concern to Missouri's 34,000 highway miles, 10,400 bridges that are in need of maintenance and repair, and to the 6th Congressional District's 2 major rivers, the Missouri and the Mississippi. And so, Congressman Graves, Mr. Chairman-to-be, please take the microphone.
I'll be brief, because everybody, I want to hear from Nick and Bill, and I do want to point out, Rodney Davis just walked in the room. Where'd you go, Rodney? Thanks for coming. Rodney, we're going to miss you. We really are, and I'm going to miss you. I know you're going to go on to do bigger and better things, but we are going to miss you. And another one of my lieutenants and great friends, Garrett Graves, who's going to run the aviation subcommittee, which is going to be a big deal in the next Congress. And I appreciate Garrett being here as well. Thanks. We got a lot of work. So I'm just going to briefly talk a little bit about. We're going to talk a lot about the history of the committee, and I'm very proud of that. And anybody that knows me very well knows that I'm a historian, and I love the history of this committee and what it means and what it's about and what it's supposed to be, and the history of the folks on the wall who have all meant a lot to me. I can remember the first time I met Norm Mineta. I was new to Congress. He had just taken over as Secretary of Transportation. I saw him at Ocean Air, made a beeline for him in his detailed body checked me right down in the dining room, and finally we got it all worked out, who I was, and I got to sit and talk with him for a long time, and a great individual. And Don Young, in particular, Don was always full of advice, and we all know that. And I wish he could be here because he would love this. Don's biggest piece of advice to me was, if you want to kill an enemy, make him a friend. And that's exactly how I feel in terms of the way I run things, and that's the way the committee's going to be. I'm an old school politician, and I don't feel bad about that. I know a lot of people in my conference and on both sides of the aisle think that we should be battling and blowing this process up, but I do not feel that way. I believe in this institution. I believe in what we do, and so that's exactly the way I'm going to run the committee. In my office, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Former members, all they have to do is say the magic words, "I'm a former member," and they get the red carpet treatment, Democrat or Republican. You come into my office, you talk to me, and we'll try to find a way forward. And I've had many conversations with Rick Larson, and I want this to be a partnership. And that's exactly the way I intend to run the committee, and I want input from everybody, and we'll find a way. We'll just figure it out. I believe in compromise. You figure it out, and you move forward. The best news is, and that's another piece of advice I got from Bill Thomas. He said, the Democrats are our loyal opposition. The Senate, they're our enemy, and you get two senators in a room and you throw the staff out of the room, you're going to win because they can't operate without their staff. We can. But regardless, I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully everything's going to work out. I don't see any roadblocks, but I never count my chickens before they hatch. But I want to thank everybody for being here. It ended up being a fly-out day, so we don't have a lot of members, unfortunately. But that's okay. We're still going to have I'm going to say we're going to have a good time. We've got a lot of legislation ahead of us. We've got FAA reauthorization. We've got pipeline safety. We're going to continue with Bill Schuster's record. I want to see a word bill done on time, and so that's what the goal is. But thank you all very much for coming out. Thanks, Peter, for what you did.
Thank you so much. And now we get to hear from the former Congressman Nick Rahall, who served as ranking member. Congressman Rahall represented West Virginia's 3rd Congressional District and served as the ranking member from 2011 to 2015. Congressman Rahall served 19 terms in the House of Representatives. And at the time he was elected, he was the youngest person elected to Congress. He has played a leadership role in every federal highway debate from the moment he entered Congress in 1976. His work is designed to build and repair the nation's highways and bridges. Interestingly, while he was deeply passionate about our transportation system, a quarter of the bills that Mr. Rahall passed during the time he was in Congress were related to public lands and natural resources, his other passion. And so let me present to you Nick Rahall.
Thank you very much, Jane, and I want to salute the Capitol Historical Society for putting together this event and all you do to preserve the history of this great institution, and I say that with all due respect. It is a great institution. I guess I'm the only wish I coulda, would have been on the platform this evening. Although I was hung in my other committee, oh, that's a bad word to use today. I did have my portrait put up in my other committee on natural resources. And Peter and I served together on both of those committees my entire time here, and yours as well, I believe, 36 and 38 years, respectfully. And those were great years. I really loved my time on both of my committees. My first speaker was Tip O'Neill, who used to have the old saying, all politics is local. While that may be debatable today, I still believe on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, the old saying that it is the most bipartisan committee in the Congress is still true. And there's, as we all know, no bridges, no Democrat bridges, no Republican bridges, they're all America bridges. And when I became ranking member, my chairman, who was sitting, who's you'll hear from next, was a delight to work with. I happened to find, in going through my archives, which I have a lot of time to do these days, I happened to find this National Journal daily from July 25th, 2013. And right as you open it up, it's all about the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And there's Chairman Schuster pointing his finger at my nose. But the first paragraph talks about how our first event together was a dinner at the Capitol Grill, in which just he and I got together his first week or first few days as chairman to discuss what we could and could not do from our respective positions and how much we wanted to get together on so many different pieces of legislation. And then later on, in this same article, since I don't have a staff to write my speeches these days, I have to read from articles like this. I didn't read it. I know, you didn't read it, you two did. But anyway, here's a quote from me about Chairman Schuster. Quote, "He keeps me constantly informed of decisions made by his leadership on scheduling or problems, why he can't do what he'd like to do on particular pieces of legislation. That kind of openness goes a long way in terms of goodwill with the opposing party. It's a constant frustration for members of the minority to be the last ones to find out when they have to vote on legislation on what they haven't seen." And that's what pretty much guided both Bill Schuster and his father, Chairman Bud Schuster, with whom I served as he was my chairman as well. Matter of fact, his father used to come to my fundraisers under then Speaker Gingrich, even though Speaker Gingrich went ballistic. But then Chairman Bud Schuster still would show up at my fundraisers. Those were the good old days. Those were the good old days. Like the day we traveled to someplace in Arkansas, I forgot the corner of Arkansas where John Paul Hammerschmidt had probably the largest delegation from Congress to come down to his district, which Bentonville, I believe it was, which was the headquarters of Tyson's Chicken, Walmart, J.B. Hunt, in that little city in Arkansas. And going through my archives, I found a picture of us getting off the plane. We had a plane, there were probably there were a dozen, maybe more, members of Congress, more than we could get to any hearing here in Washington, D.C. And we had these figureheads we put on our head, pigs. Those were the days we had earmarks. And so those were the good old days, as I say. But enough reminiscing about the good old days. I again want to thank my colleagues for giving me the privilege of serving as a ranking member, and most importantly, my constituents in Southern West Virginia for allowing me to serve them for 38 years in this august body. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal. I thought surely you were going to say that the pigs, then you were all required to say, "Woo pig suey," which is what the University of Arkansas, fight song is. I learned that because my daughter did her medical residency in Arkansas, so I was uninformed about that until just a few years ago. I'm going to tell you about the two Chairman Schusters. Now, the interesting thing is that you look up a little bit about, what did people do as chairman, and you find what's their bio about, what do they say about themselves and all that kind of stuff. The original Chairman Schuster, who sends his greetings through his son, and so we're going to find out what he says, affectionately is known as Bud. He served 15 terms in Congress. 9 of his elections came after he secured both the Republican and the Democratic nomination for the seat. This was identified as unprecedented in Pennsylvania. Near as I can ascertain, it is unprecedented in America. From 1995 to 2001, Mr. Schuster chaired this august committee, which he proudly claimed to be the largest and one of the most bipartisan committees. National Journal wrote at the time that he was one of the last great chairmen on Capitol Hill. He then contributed his firstborn son to Congress, who may have something to say about that claim about, last best chairman. But it's his father, so we'll roll with the punches. The second Chairman Schuster, also on the wall, affectionately known as Bill, comes from Pennsylvania, same place, graduate of Dickinson College, Master of Business from American University, and prior to entering politics, Schuster worked on his family farm in Bedford County, at Goodyear Tire and Rubber, and Bandag Incorporated. He owned and operated an automobile dealership in East Freedom, Pennsylvania, and during his tenure, Congressman Schuster was one of the most respected members of Congress. As the chairman of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, he followed in his father's footsteps, also earning a reputation for bipartisan collaboration. As Chairman Schuster comes up, I would like everyone who is now or has ever been a staff member for the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee to wave their hand, because there have been several times that there's been reference to the importance of staff. So we need to do a shout out. Wave your hand high. What's the matter with you all? All right. So think about this. Think about this as your class reunion. Chairman Schuster.
And the first thing I have to ask you, Madam President, did my father write your remarks for you? Kind of sounds like he did. Well, I got to tell you, it's great to be here. I got some remarks I wrote. I live by the 5-minute rule because my father told me, get up, say what you're going to say, make your point, and then sit back down because people don't want to hear you go on and on. Well, when I walked into the room today, I'm overcome with seeing former chairman up on the walls here. And so I'm going to take a diversion here because Nick's 38 years in Congress. What are you, 32, 34 years? 36. I've been around this committee for 46 years. And so I'm looking at the walls up here, and I'm thinking, I think I got stories of everybody up here. I met Chairman Blotnick, and I knew his staff director was Jim Oberstar, young Jim Oberstar. Then Blotnick passed away, and Jim replaced him. So that's how far back I go in the committee. And then I see Bob Rowe up there from New Jersey, and it reminds me of we redid the committee room, and I had all the living chairmen portraits on the wall here, and up in the conference room, I had all the past chairmen. And so Steve Martinka was in the meeting, senior staff, before the April recess. And I'm sitting up there, I'm looking around the walls, and I see Bob Rose on the wall. I said, he's alive. I want his picture down in the committee room after we come back from Easter vacation. They go, okay. And I was pretty adamant about it, because I thought, it's wrong, he should be on the walls. So I came back in the first meeting we had in the room up there, Bob Rose still on the wall. And I said, how come his picture's not downstairs? And somebody said, he passed away a week ago. Then I realized I better watch what I say, because it could get me in trouble. But again, I look around the room. Jim Oberstar, a lot of years. I was an automobile dealer. I sold Jim Oberstar a PT Cruiser. Norm Mineta, prince of a guy. I sold him a LeBaron convertible. Absolutely, it's true. And I didn't give him a very good deal. Again, coming into this committee room, it brings back a lot of memories, but it's great to be here, the changing of the guard. Peter, my friend, my partner on the committee, we had a lot of good work together. Occasionally, we had a difference of opinion. But most of the time, we figured it out and moved on. And again, congratulations to my good friend Sam Graves, who's going to be the chairman of the committee. Sam he knows his stuff, and again, he needs to do an FAA bill, and he's going to be helped by Garrett Graves, one of the most really smart guy. He's a smart guy. I love Garrett Graves. Yeah, there you go. But Sam couldn't be the chairman of the committee. Couldn't be better suited to be Sam Graves when you do an FAA bill, because I always tell people Sam Graves is a pilot first, and then he's a member of Congress. I mean, he's a real expert. So again, Sam, congratulations. I look forward to seeing what your work you're going to do here. And Nick Rahal. When I became the chairman, I had the staff, senior staff in, and I said, our first order of business is going to be the WRDA bill. And some of the senior staff were like, hold on, we got to do a highway bill. Steve Martinko got it. I said, we're going to do a WRDA bill. It hasn't been done in 7 years. I think we can do it. And if we do it, and we do it on a consistent basis, one of the things my father preached was, in this town, your word is the coin of the realm. So I said, we're going to pass a WRDA bill, then we're going to pass another WRDA bill. And we did that. And so I think I had members coming up to me saying, Schuster, you got to put my thing in here. I said, hey, we're going to do another WRDA bill. It's going, sure we are. We haven't done it for 7 years. But we did it, and so you gain credibility. I think by doing those things, and again, keeping your word to those people. But Nick and I, we had some great meetings over in the Senate. Barbara Boxer and David Vitter were our counters over there. And every single meeting, we went over to the Senate. And Martinko, he got so upset with me. He said, we got to have him come over here. And I said, no. I'm happy to go over there. So we went over and had a lot of great back and forth. One meeting in particular that we had, it was my dad and Bill Thomas told me, you'll want to get in the room with a senator with no staff, because you guys will know a lot more than they do. So I said to Barbara, so we shouldn't have staff in this meeting. So staff got shooed out. Nick and I proceeded to go back and forth. And I guess I can say it now because Barbara's gone and Vitter's gone. Well, it was Barbara, really. We walk out of the room, Nick's the last one out of the room, and he comes to me and said, her staff director was on the phone. She had a staff director on the phone. I said, how did you know that, Nick? He said, before I walked out of the room, she said something. So again, Nick, he was a great partner, and we worked through that process of the WRDA bill. And again, I can't thank him enough working with him, and he's been a great friend. So now I'll get to my comments that I wrote. Again, it's here for two Schusters, Schuster squared. And I want to say some remarks brief of my father. The original chairman, which you said, he often reminds me he's the original chairman, but he couldn't make it tonight. He's going to turn 91 in January. His mind is still sharp, and he also likes to remind me he rides 100 minutes a day on his bike. So he's probably up there about now, riding on his bike. He said he couldn't be here, but he'd be here in spirit, and he wanted me to pass along just real brief that the accomplishments that he had in the committee were due to the bipartisan work of the members and the incredible work and tireless efforts of the staff. And somebody said it, you said it, staff is so important to get things done. You got to have great staff. So again, he sends that message to the folks here tonight. Sorry he couldn't be here, but again, Bud's still going strong. 100 minutes on his bike. I'm sure he'll call me up tonight and tell me that and ask me what I said. I got to give a shout out too to Chairman Young, God rest his soul, Chairman Micah. Both of those gentlemen really gave me a chance as a young member, elevated me to a committee a chairmanship. So I'm forever grateful for the trust that those two put in me. It allowed me to eventually become the chairman of the committee. So again, I thank those guys greatly for what they did. The federal government has always had a central role in the transportation development of the system in this country. And as I like to remind people, the Articles of Confederation failed for several reasons. But really, the breaking point was in the conference in Annapolis, where Virginia and Maryland couldn't agree on a plan to navigate the Potomac River. So they broke up, and then months later, they went to Philadelphia. They formed the Constitution we know today. And from the beginning of our country, transportation has always been central to the federal government and their role in it. You know, from the waterways, ports, 1812, appropriate and authorize the National Pike, which I'm proud to say runs through my district. I can't take credit for it, but I certainly pointed it out to people. You know, onto the railroads, aviation, and all that this committee does is so vital to the American people, to our economy. And again, I want to finish by saying that the successes that I had as a chairman and the committee had was due to the bipartisan work of the members. And there were challenges on both sides of the aisle. Garrett, sorry. And there were challenges, but we were always able to figure out how to get a win, usually for somebody, or members would say they would offer and withdraw an amendment. So it was a great working relationship. And again, the staff, having great staff is so essential to getting things done here. You can be the smartest member of Congress, you can be the hardest working member of Congress, but if you don't have really good staff, you just can't do the things that you need to do. And the number of different things that you have to accomplish, it takes that kind of staff, smart, hardworking staff, dedicated. So for those staffers in here, thank you all very much. A number of them either worked for me or Bud, Murph. I'm looking around the room trying to eyeball everybody, but I know that Peter's great staff and Sam has great staff. So again, I think this committee is going to continue to do great work in the future. And again, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Well, this has been great, and I really appreciate everyone being here. I want to thank the staff of the T&I committee for helping to do this, the staff of the Capitol Historical Society. We also have two of our board members here. Dave Reagan, we did talk about auto dealerships, who's on our board. There's some stories. Jan de Servan, Alice Valder-Curran was here. I have to say their names because they're my boss. That's how it works in this world. We're going to be passing hors d'oeuvres, so please enjoy that. But I know that this is Chairman DeFazio's house, and the person whose house we're in gets the last word. Mr. Chairman.
Well, we've talked a bit about history. I don't know if we've quite settled what's the oldest committee, but we'll keep researching that. But I do want to, you know, everyone else said something about staff, and I want to say something about staff. You know, yeah, it's true. House members know a lot more about their subject matter than senators. But, you know, the fact is you can't know everything about everything. And to have really great staff behind you is really the key to success. Personal staff I've had, committee staff I've had over the years have been absolutely phenomenal, and a number of them are here. But I'm just going to do this one last time and embarrass Kathy. So, because she's historic. Kathy Dedrick, this committee, the first or second oldest committee in Congress, during its entire tenure, has never had a woman chief of staff on either side of the aisle until Kathy Dedrick, who has been absolutely phenomenal as my chief of staff. Now, that wasn't the embarrassing part. Kathy actually started in my office as, well, not in my office. She was my first congressional page. When you had to be in 2 or 3 terms, you get a page. She comes from Lebanon, Oregon. And she would always say, I have this picture of you and me on the Capitol steps. I'd say, oh, I really want to see the picture. And she'd say, oh, it's in my mom's basement. We can't find it, and whatever. And she would never produce it. And then finally, this, I guess for the archives, she produced it. And what happened is, they had to wear these blazers. They had a little uniform. And Kathy had spilled something on her blazer just before the photograph. And one of the other pages, very nice guy, who unfortunately was pretty large, said, well, you can have my blazer. So there's Kathy, rather, petite woman in this blazer that I don't even think you can quite see her hands hanging out of it. And so, but she finally produced it. It's now going in my archives, so you'll be memorialized. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks to the Capitol Historical Society. It's been an absolutely wonderful evening, and now we have some hors d'oeuvres and a little bit more to drink. The beer's not what the craft beer caucus would have.
Wine selection's a little iffy.
Well, Billy, I wasn't in charge. I wasn't in charge. When Bill started having receptions for each subcommittee, and the first time I came, I said,
Beer was crappy.
yeah. Anyway, I taught Bill about beer, and he's learning about wine, too. Oh, my God.
For you and for each of the speakers, we have, this is a Statue of Freedom made from marble from the Capitol, from the steps from the renovation. And that is for you. There's one for each of you, but I didn't open it.
Oh, that is absolutely stupendous. I was here when they brought her down, and I visited her when she was down on the ground.
Good.
Yeah.
Enjoy, enjoy.
you. Oh, that was great.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Stand here so I get the Capitol Historical.